Doing a little 1-2 in Advanced Algebra 1 today. First we start talking about expressions, variables, and terms. So an expression consists of sums, which means like adding, you know, or products, which means like multiplying of numbers and variables. What's a variable? It's usually a letter. You know, in our world, we usually use a letter. That doesn't happen as you get into more advanced math, but it's a letter to represent something that we didn't know, you know. And then terms is the big deal. Terms is something a lot of people get kind of confused about. So if we just dive into number 1, here's my shortcut though. Terms are always separated by an addition sign, a subtraction sign, or an equal sign. And a lot of people, especially early in the morning, might think there's 2 terms in that guy. I think there's 2 nuggets. Like there's a 2 and there's an X. Are you with me? But do you see any addition signs separating those? Do you see any subtraction signs separating those? Or do you see any equal signs? You don't. So that's actually just 1 term right there. Because terms are separated by addition, subtraction, or equals. And even though on number 2 there's a 3, there's an X, and there's a 5, right? Can you see, here's one of our little separator buddies right here. Like there's an addition sign, a subtraction sign, or an equal sign. You see there's a 3X and there's a 5. So how many terms we got? 2 terms. I'll do one more of those with you. 4xy. Even though there's 3 nuggets, that's really how many terms? Yeah, so it's not about nuggets, it's about terms. So try number 4, see what you think with the neighbor. What do we feel? How many terms is that bad boy? 3 terms. Something that will be really, really important as we go through the year. So here's a very challenging part for a lot of math students, is the translating of the English into the math. So I made a chart for you about all these fancy schmancy words about addition. Again, you did a good job of using your notes last time. You're welcome to use your notes, but sum, I'm pretty sure we're used to seeing for an addition. Plus is a definite. I want you to do this, though. Either circle or highlight, your choice. You know, like more than. He's a special guy. Increased and added to. Those are all addition, but I'll tell you why more than is a special dude here in a second. Difference, a lot of people are kind of struggle busting with that. Like difference means we're going to do subtraction. Minus is pretty obvious. Less than, circle that guy. Decreased by, subtracted from. Those are our basic words for addition or subtraction. Multiplication, product, times, just plain of. You know, like if you just see the word of, you know, means we're going to multiply. And of course, if they literally say multiplied by. And then quotient, out of, you know, is like 9 out of 10, you know, like you're making a fraction, you know, like it's dividing. And then divided by. But here's why we circled these guys. Put a little note off to the side. More than and less than are the only 2 weirdos that we do things backwards. And I'll explain that as we get to it. Backwards. And because we're pretty smart, you might be thinking more than is like this symbol and less than is this symbol. These are actually like is more than and is less than. Those are like operation symbols. So we're not talking about your greater thans and your less thans. We're talking about add or subtract. So let's just dive in and see how we roll with it. The sum of, talk to me, what are we going to do there? Out of our operations, add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Add a number and 10. Well, first off, here's where I want your brain to go. This is like how we're going to think ourselves through it. Did you get any backwards phrases? The only backwards phrases are less than or more than. Did you read any backwards phrases? No backwards phrases, so the order they typed it in is the order we're going to list it in. Is that okay? So the sum of a number, heck, I don't even know what they want us to use for a number, so we'll make up a variable. And 99% of the time, we use what letter for our variable? X. Read your homework carefully. Sometimes they tell you a letter. It's like, let's let C be the number. Let's let W be the number. You know how we got to type it in, so make sure that you use the right letter. And since it's the sum of, that means we want a plus 10. You see how that's the sum of, I was supposed to add together a number, we're calling that X, and 10. Are we cool with that? Okay, let's try another one. 15 less than, what does that mean to you? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Subtract. Is it a backwards phrase? That means since the 15 is on the left and the K is on the right, whoop, switch them around, right? Switch them around. K is going to be over here, subtract 15. And that's kind of weird, but it's just like I do this with money. If I had 20 bucks, right, and Francie had $3 less than me, wouldn't you have to take my money, 20, and subtract 3 from it so she had $17, as opposed to 3 minus 20, which is negative 17 in that case. So less than means, okay, you had to have this much less than K. But in my words, less than and more than are the only two weird boys. So how about the product of? What does the product of mean? Multiply. 18 in Q, I'm going to ask us very nicely here in a math class when you're going to take a number times a letter that we get rid of this symbol. This is elementary school for like multiply. It still means multiply, but in an algebra class, that's an X. Are you with me? You know, it's like I don't want to see that, right? We can use a dot. I bet you've seen a dot before, but it is just common algebra knowledge that you don't need a symbol when you're taking a number times a letter. Are you cool with that? You just put 18Q. Do you see how I kind of make mine cursive? I just like that personally if you put a little, even if you just put a little tail on it so it doesn't look like a 9, you know? So that we'll work with that. 6 more than. What does more than mean? Add. Is it backwards? Yeah, that's a backwards boy. Okay, so I know I got some adding, right? And I already know that the 6 is going to be on the other side of it, right? Because he's a backwards boy. Twice. What's that mean to you? 2 times, right? Twice, you know, twice M. So twice M. Why did I make them switch around? Because of the weird boy of more than, right? And if you're thinking, I don't think that really matters what order you add stuff in, you're right. It actually does. 3 plus 4, the same thing as 4 plus 3. The order that you actually do addition in isn't that important, but subtraction is very different. But when we type stuff into homework, they're going to make it be 2m plus 6, not 6m plus 6 plus 2m. Cool? So, all right. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'll kind of like turn you loose here to do a couple without me. 8 increased by. Tell your neighbor, what do you think increased by means? Yeah, so boom. Is it backwards? Nope. So the 8's on the left side of the increased by. It's going to be on the left side of the plus. 3 times a number. If they don't tell us what to use for the number, we will use x, right? So what do you want to put? 3x. Cool? Feel okay with that? Try number 10 without me. You and a neighbor, see if you can do 9 out of 10. And how do you feel about this? 9 out of 10. I'm also cool if you wrote it like this, you know, 9 over 10. What I don't want to do is this. This is also another elementary school division sign, you know, like 9 divided by 10. It totally is true, you know, it's just the only time we'll use it is when we do the order of operations. Other than that, it's just like, this is too elementary for us. We do the slash. Cool? So the difference of 17 and 5 times a number. Give that a shot with a neighbor. We've got a choice between a purple one and a green one. Sorry if you are colorblind. I do a lot of stuff in colors, and I talk in colors. I apologize to those colorblind, but which one do you feel it should be? The purple one or the green one? Difference definitely means subtract. Are we cool with that? And I did it in the order that they listed because that is not a backwards phrase, right? So this one is correct. Cool? I'll let you try 12, getting a little more advanced. The product of 2 and the second power of y. Try it out. If we mess up, no big deal. Product. What does product mean? Multiply. 2 and the second power of y. So here's y. To the second power means you're going to like put a little exponent on it, right? Like squared. Sometimes all that gives up power. Cool? Hey, I put a bonus one on here because I didn't realize that these were on the homework. I'm glad they are because we are advanced. Now we're going to get serious. You don't have to write it down if you don't want to. If you just want to like play along with me, you know. So you see how they say 3 times. Okay, what does that mean? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Multiply. Then they automatically then go to another operation. Like, isn't the sum mean addition, right? You know, so it's like, hey, bro, we just listed multiplication, then addition right away. That's a big fat math clue that says you need parentheses. We need parentheses, right? So 3 times, so 3 times boom, the parenthesis, the sum of 2 and a number. So that would be like this, which is really weird for a lot of people. But if they're going to list like multiplication and addition in words right in a row, that means you need parentheses. They could also say like 2 times the difference of, right? You see they say times the difference or times the sum, so need parentheses. Hands up on homework if you need help with those. It's like, I'm not sure how this works, you know, but they might list that, is that you need parentheses. Don't distribute it through. If we're familiar with the distributive, probably just leave it the way it is. Rock and roll. Cool. All right, so that's that. Now let's do the order of operations, which, if you were taught, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, that's almost right. You know, it's actually GEMDAS, because G stands for grouping symbols. Like P, you knew, stood for parentheses, right? Parentheses is a type of a grouping symbol. But there's also brackets, you know, like the square little brackets, fraction bars, radicals. There's all kinds of grouping symbols. So we're going to do what's in the grouping symbols first, then exponents, multiply and divide. What order do you do multiply and divide? They're like at the same level, bro. So you have to do that from left to right as we go across. And the same thing with adding and subtracting. Well, 13 is a little too easy because there's only one like operation in there. The 5 is getting squared. What's 5 squared, baby? 25. Sorry, not a highlighter there. And then 3 is getting cubed. If you need to punch that in your calculator, I'm going to start showing you. Instead of doing 3 times 3 times 3, like many of you have a caret key. It's hard to see my little cursor, but I'm trying to circle it here to raise it to the 3rd power and get 27 back on that. But there's nothing wrong with doing 3 times 3 times 3. I would hate if that was 3 to the 8th power to do 3 times 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 3 and have to sit there and count them out, you know. So rock on. All right. So now let's really get started. We got to do anything in grouping symbols first, which can you see we have parentheses on this guy. So what is the 3 plus the 4? 7. Now let's talk about work shown. I'm going to require some work shown on this. It's really weird because your homework's online, right? So it's like, am I going to pick up your work and grade it? Probably not. Not until we get into some serious stuff later. I will have some assignments where it's like, I've got to see your work. When we're factoring quadratics and we do all this and there's 6 lines of work that needs to happen, we're going to do that, right? So, but for here, on quizzes and tests, I'm going to expect you to do it. Because here's why. Anybody could punch that in their calculator right now from left to right, and it's going to work. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I want to see, do you actually know the order of operations? So here's what I do. If I show the work, this is what I expect from you on quizzes and tests. Cool? So I'm going to change that into a 7. I'm not going to change the symbol, you know, at all. It was a dot for multiply, so I'm going to use the dot for multiply. And then if you need to punch in 7 times 6, doesn't hurt my feelings one bit. I personally like to check it do it in my brain first and check it. What is 7 times 6, baby? 42. When I get to a final answer, I'm a dude that likes to circle it or box it or something, you know. It's like, hey, that tells me I am done. Cool. So just doing the order of operations. And now we'll rock on again. Going through here, are there any grouping symbols? Nope. Exponents? Nope. Multiply or divide? Yep. So some people, when they have it on paper especially, like to underline what they are about to do. You know, it's like, hey, I'm going to do this part. My question to you is that a 12 or is that a negative 12? The truth is, it really doesn't matter as long as you know how to deal with it. I'm going to treat it as a 12. Is that okay? What is 12 divided by 3? Or 12 divided by 4 is how much? 3. But then what I bring down, the 15 comes down. Sorry, my pen drug there a little bit. The 15 comes down, and the minus comes down. You see, I haven't used the minus part of it. If I thought of it as a minus, it would still kind of work out, right? But it just doesn't really matter. Okay? 15 minus 3 is 12. Cool? All right. In 17, I can read the room. We're a little bored with this. I'm going to do this one the long way. And then I'll see on the next one if we can handle the shortcut. Does that sound okay? And still show work with a shortcut. But here's the long way on 17. Are there grouping symbols? Yes or no? So the 12's coming down. I'm going to do what's in there, right? 20 minus 17 is 3. It stays in the parentheses, right? Minus 3 times 6. Rocking and rolling there. Now, all that's left is like multiplying and subtracting, right? So, got to do multiplying. Going to go from left to right. 12 times 3, how much? 36. And then I like write the rest of it down. They're still multiplying, right? Got to do the 3 times 6. Feel free to punch that in if you need to. 3 times 6 is 18. And honestly, out of all the calculations, the adding and the subtracting is the stuff I personally have to punch in my calculator the most. Like, what is 36 minus 18, you know, and just double check. But punch that in. What is 36 minus 18? It is 18. To me, that was the long way to do it. Here is a trick if you like it. You're looking for pluses and minuses, right? You're looking for adds and subtracts because those separate like where you've got to like do some work. Like for example, right here, I could have redone this. I'm going to just do this guy over if I can erase. Do you see how I could have done this? 12 times 3 is 36. There is a minus 3 times 6 is 18. I could have done all of that multiplying like in one move, but where there was a subtraction sign, I just said, okay, I've got to start over with the order of operations. So I'm going to work from left to right until I get to plus or a minus kind of stuff, right? Ooh, everybody knows that's the first thing I should do when it comes to order of operations. Isn't that an exponent? But I can go over to the left and do all the multiplying and dividing at the same time if I really wanted to. But the question is, who do you do first? Do you do the divide or you do the multiply? Because they are equivalent levels. Tell your neighbor what you think. Who do you do first? In this particular case, what is the right answer? We do the divide because it's on the left. Like you have to work from left to right. So I'm going to do this. 24 divided by 3, how much? 8. I'm going to put times 2. I'm not going to call it 16 right away because doing too much stuff is just a little bit. But you see, here's Mr. Separation Boy right there. There's either a plus or a minus. Now I'm going to just start over the process with the order of operations. It says 3 squared. What is 3 squared? 9. You with me? I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I could probably handle doing more, but then it's just like we get a little lost and it's hard for me to grade you, right? So I always tell students this, I can't grade your calculator and I can't grade your brain. I have to grade your paper, you know? So show me what I want to see. Then we got to do the multiply, right? So what's 8 times 2? 16 minus 9. And then you can punch that in if you'd like. 16 minus 9 is 7. We're okay with that. This is something, the basic arithmetic, that some people are really good at and some people are really bad at, you know. I won't lie, I have to do like all my math on paper. I can't do stuff in my head. I am not good at like doing math in my head. I'm better than the average person, but when it comes to someone who should be an expert at it, I got to write stuff down, you know. It's just like, you'll see as things get more complicated in an algebra class, okay, I see what he's talking about. We got to write some stuff down. So, all right, let's try this. Let's do my shortcut. I'm going to just kind of work through the order of operations. Some people like to pop out a highlighter and go, hey, there's a special boy. One of those pluses is special. One of those minuses is special. If we can just kind of treat it as you've got 3 little sections. You've got, boom, purple section. You've got, boom, green section. And you've got, boom, black section. You can do like the order of operations on each little section as we go around, right? So in this first purple section, I'm going to do the exponent. And I will write the divide sign. I know I said I want the slash. The only time that we use the divide signs is when we're doing order of operations. Plus. In this green section, I'm going to do the 2 squared to be 4, and I'm just going to bring the times 7 down. And then minus 20 divided by 5 is 4. You kind of see how I did it in 3 little sections right there. Now I'm going to keep going. If you want to keep highlighting the little pluses and the minuses, do that. It's up to you. But now I just do each little section right there to be 9 divided by 3, which is 3, plus 4 times 7 is 28. Minus 4. And when it comes to adding and subtracting, you also work from left to right. So you got to do 3 plus 28 first, which is 31, right? Take away 4. And then you could get, I believe that's 27. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I make mental mistakes a lot, you know. Are we okay with that? Cool. Bonus question of the day. Going to 20. I'm going to go old school and talk myself through, are there grouping symbols on number 20? And the answer is yes. Look back up to the top of the page in that box that I have in the upper right of all the different types of grouping symbols they are. You might not even know what this is called. Are you cool with the fact that those are square root signs, right? They're really called radicals, you know, like radical 2, all that kind of stuff. Those are radicals. There is a grouping symbol because I'll do this wrong. Shouldn't that be the square root of 13? No, it's not. I cannot add the 4 and the 9 together. Are you with me on that? Because that violates the order of operations. I have to simplify what's underneath there first. So what is the square root of 4? 2. The plus will come down. What is the square root of 9? 3. Now you can add those together, right? You do what's in the grouping symbol first. So there's 5. And now the extreme bonus question of the day. On 21, are there grouping symbols? Yes. That fraction bar is a grouping symbol. And I'll bet you know the two names of the groups. What's called upstairs is called the numerator. Guess what's downstairs? Those are two different groups, right? So what I'm going to do is just kind of do it one group at a time. Whammo, see that group? Just pretend the other stuff wasn't there. I got to do 4 plus 3 squared. So I am going to list my fraction bar, right? But I'm going to write 4 plus 9. Do you see how I did that? One little bitty nugget right there in the order of operations up there. But to keep myself a little organized, I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom group next. It's 12 plus 1. What's 12 plus 1? 13. Are you guys cool with what I've done so far? And then upstairs in the numerator, isn't there more that can simplify, right? So what is 4 plus 9? 13 over 13. And then here's a wonderful question that I will be happy to answer as often as you would like. I hope you can get it down. Do you want me to reduce that? The answer is yes. What is 13 over 13? It is 1. Are we cool with that? So it's a great question. Do you want us to reduce? Do you want us to reduce? The answer will be yes, right? There's a few cases where I'll say it's not the best idea to reduce, but that's very rare. We feel cool with the order of operations. Again, it's one of those, we just got to do it because it's the basics of algebra kind of stuff, right? So, all right. And then lastly, we'll do a little bit of substituting in with the order of operations. Do you see if they say, hey, A is 4 anywhere in this expression down here? I would like to clear that up because that was one of our words today. Why is that not an equation? You know, like what's the difference between an expression and an equation in our own words? Equations have what symbol in it? Equal sign, right? Equations can be solved. You know, we'll learn that later. An expression can't be solved. We can only simplify it. But what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in, and your brain will love it as we go on through this class if you always substitute into parentheses. So I'm just going to copy this whole mamma jamma down again, but where there's an A, I'm going to put 4 in parentheses. There's already a parenthesis there. There's a B, so I'm going to put 6 in there. It's going to get squared divided by 3. And then that closed off that parenthesis in that case. Sometimes your brain can handle not putting all the parentheses, but when we start getting some negatives in there, and then we got to square this negative and do this, it's like your brain will like it better if there's parentheses. So trust me on that. Let's do the order of operations. Here is one of our separator buddies. And I always take a blind eye to what's inside the parentheses. Like just kind of pretend that you can't see what's in there. It's like there is parentheses. I'm going to kind of clean up what's inside of there first. So I got me an 8 on the outside. Sorry, that's not a pen. Plus, inside the parentheses, what do you want to do first? The 6 squared or the divide by 3? Yeah, the exponent, which is 6 squared is, I love it. Like the parentheses are like still there, but you see how I kind of cleaned up that 8 at the beginning. It's like, might as well do it. It's there. So now I got 8 plus whatever 36 divided by shui is. What's 36 divided by 3? Feel free to punch it in if you need to. 12. And then that's 20. Cool. That's 20. Last one of the day, baby. Would you and a neighbor substitute in with parentheses and clean it up with the order of operation. Hey, I'm going to correct myself. I've already decided that we're too smart for the parenthesis trick every time. Because can you see, I did it the way I kind of asked you to by putting all the parentheses. It's just a mess like that. Here's when you need parentheses. If you're substituting negative numbers in. Like if you're going to substitute a negative number in, you'll be best to put parentheses around it. So honestly, if I would have wrote it like this, I think my brain can handle that better. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to sub some negatives in, let's put those in parentheses. I'm going to clean up what's upstairs. It's 6 times what? 1 over 16 downstairs. Are we good with that? What is 6 times 1? 2. 6 over 16. Can it reduce? 2 goes into each one, right? So that becomes how much, baby? There might be some questions on homework that say list as a decimal and do all that. If you can leave it as a fraction, it's going to accept it also. Cool? So, all right.